GCSE History, Elizabethan England. The religious settlement. In this video, we are looking at the Acts of Supremacy and Uniformity from 1559, the Royal Injunctions from 1559, the 39 Articles of 1563, the role of the Church of England, and the extent of success. When Elizabeth became Queen, she faced a major challenge in dealing with religious tensions in England. Her father, Henry VIII, had broken away from the Catholic Church, making England a Protestant country. However, Elizabeth's half-sister Mary I had tried to reverse this by restoring Catholicism and persecuting Protestants, leading to a deeply divided nation. Elizabeth, who was Protestant, needed to find a way to unite her people without causing rebellion. To do this, she introduced the religious settlement in 1559, sometimes called the Middle Way. This settlement aimed to establish a moderate form of Protestantism as the official religion of England, while allowing some Catholic traditions and practices to continue. The Middle Way was designed to keep both Protestants and Catholics somewhat satisfied and create stability. However, it didn't completely end religious conflicts, and Elizabeth continued to face challenges from religious extremists throughout her reign. The Act of Supremacy, 1559. The Act of Supremacy made Elizabeth the leader of the Church of England, replacing the Pope as the highest authority. However, instead of using the title Supreme Head, as her father Henry VIII and brother Edward VI had done, she chose the title Supreme Governor of the Church of England. This decision was intended to be less confrontational for Catholics, who still believed the Pope to be the true head of the Church. To enforce her authority, Elizabeth introduced an oath of supremacy, which required all individuals taking public or church office to swear loyalty to her as the supreme governor of both church and state. Refusing to take the oath was considered an act of treason. All clergy members and government officials had to swear this oath, ensuring that their loyalty lay with Elizabeth, not the Pope. The Act also created the Ecclesiastical High Commission, a body responsible for overseeing that the clergy and public officials were following these rules and ensuring loyalty to the Queen. The Act of Uniformity, 1559. The Act of Uniformity set out the rules for church services and the appearance of churches. It was aimed at making Protestantism the national faith, while keeping some aspects of Catholicism to avoid alienating Catholic subjects. Church services and language. Services were held in English, and the Book of Common Prayer was reintroduced with a set structure that everyone was required to follow. The wording of the prayers was deliberately ambiguous, so Catholics could interpret the bread and wine as becoming the body and blood of Christ, as was the Catholic view, while Protestants could view it symbolically. Attendance and fines. It was compulsory to attend church every Sunday and on holy days. Those who missed services faced a fine, ensuring people conformed to the new church rules. Church decorations and practices. While some church decorations were retained to make Catholic followers more comfortable, Catholic practices like pilgrimages and the worship of saints were banned. The Royal Injunctions, 1559. The Royal Injunctions were a set of detailed instructions issued by Elizabeth's advisor William Cecil to ensure that clergy and worshippers complied with the new religious laws. These injunctions reinforced the Act of Supremacy and the Act of Uniformity. Teaching and preaching. All clergy were required to teach about the royal supremacy, Elizabeth's authority over the church, and to ensure that a Bible in English was available in every parish. Preachers' licences. The clergy needed a government-issued licence to preach, allowing the Crown to control who could preach and what they preached. Dress. The clergy were instructed to wear special vestments or robes during services, a practice that would be familiar to Catholics. Permitted images. Unlike the strict Protestant practices in some European countries, Elizabeth allowed images to be displayed in churches to make Catholic subjects feel more at ease. The 39 Articles, 1563. The 39 Articles were introduced to clearly set out the beliefs and practices of the Church of England. They outlined what the Church stood for and helped define it as different from both the Roman Catholic Church and more extreme Protestant groups. The Articles established a moderate Protestant faith that kept some traditional aspects, aiming to appeal to as many people as possible. These Articles became the foundation of the Church of England's beliefs and helped make its position on religious issues more stable and clearer. The Church of England. During Elizabeth's reign, the Church of England played a central role in society and was involved in many aspects of daily life, not just religious services. Guiding communities. The Church was important for providing guidance and support to local communities. Priests and church leaders often acted as advisors, helping people with personal, family, and moral issues. The Church became a place for learning about acceptable behaviour, providing guidance on how people should live according to Christian principles. Controlling preaching. The Church of England controlled what was preached in churches. This was done to make sure that sermons supported the Queen and her policies, including the religious settlement. All preachers had to have a licence issued by the government, which meant only approved messages were shared. This control helped maintain Elizabeth's authority and prevent ideas that might lead to unrest. Church courts. Church courts, or ecclesiastical courts, dealt with a variety of cases involving church and moral matters. These included disputes over marriage, inheritance, and moral behaviour, such as issues of adultery or drunkenness. The courts aimed to maintain moral order in society by dealing with cases of behaviour that went against the Church's teachings. Enforcing the religious settlement. The Church of England was responsible for ensuring that Elizabeth's religious settlement was followed. Visitations or inspections carried out every 3 to 4 years to check that churches and clergy were following the rules of the settlement. Officials inspected churches to make sure they had the right appearance and that services were held in the correct way. Monitoring other professions. The Church was also responsible for supervising certain professions, like physicians, midwives, and teachers. These professionals were required to have a licence to practice, and the Church ensured they were properly qualified. This helped the government keep control over various aspects of society, not just religious life. Extent of success. Elizabeth's religious settlement had mixed success. It aimed to unite a divided country under a moderate Protestant faith, but its impact varied across different groups. The clergy. Most of the clergy in England accepted the terms of the religious settlement and adjusted to the new practices. However, Catholic bishops, especially those appointed by Mary I who remained loyal to Catholicism, refused to accept the settlement. Elizabeth removed these bishops and replaced them with Protestant bishops who were loyal to her, helping to ensure that church leadership supported her reforms. The public. The majority of people in England attended church services as required by the settlement. Attendance was technically a choice, but those who missed services faced a fine equivalent to a week's wages. This fine was designed to be fair across all classes and encouraged compliance. A small minority, known as recusants, continued to worship in the Catholic way in secret, refusing to accept the new Protestant practices. Though they were a minority, their existence showed that some resistance to the settlement remained. One of the major successes of the settlement was that it helped avoid a religious war within England, as was happening in other European countries at the time. The settlement's moderate approach helped prevent serious conflict and maintained a level of stability in England. Despite its success, the settlement created powerful enemies, especially among Catholics who saw Elizabeth's rule as illegitimate. The settlement also led to the growth of Puritanism, a more extreme form of Protestantism. Puritans became increasingly influential and pushed for more radical changes within the Church, challenging the settlement's moderate stance. In summary, Elizabeth introduced the religious settlement in 1559 to unite a divided country by establishing a moderate Protestant church while keeping some Catholic traditions to avoid rebellion. The Act of Supremacy made Elizabeth supreme governor of the Church, requiring officials to swear loyalty to her and helping assert her authority over religion. The Act of Uniformity set rules for church services, enforcing the use of the English Book of Common Prayer, compulsory church attendance, and banning some Catholic practices. The Royal Injunctions and 39 Articles clarified and reinforced church practices, controlling preaching, keeping some traditional elements, and shaping a uniquely English Protestant faith. The Church of England helped enforce the settlement, guiding communities, controlling sermons, holding church courts, and inspecting churches to maintain religious order. And the settlement helped avoid religious war, but it faced resistance from both Catholics and Puritans, showing Elizabeth's ongoing challenge to keep religious peace and unity.